Hey Brazil, this is Britt from Spoon, and you're listening to 89 FM, the Radio Rock.
Fala galera, beleza? Eu sou o Wendell Correia e hoje eu vou conversar com Britt Daniel, o vocalista, guitarrista e líder da banda Spoon, banda de Austin do Texas, nos Estados Unidos. Já vieram para o Brasil várias vezes, inclusive já visitaram a 89, a Rádio Rock, e acabaram de lançar um álbum novo chamado Lucifer On The Sofa. Vou trocar ideia com ele sobre esse novo lançamento. Ele vai entrar apenas por áudio, mas você acompanha com exclusividade aqui no 89 esse bate-papo exclusivo com Britt Daniel do Spoon.
Hey, Britt, how are you, man?
All right, how are you?
I'm fine. And how have you been during this crazy couple of years we're living?
Yeah, it's been lovely. I've been up and down, you know. When it first hit, you know, I was very lucky to have music because I was in the middle of writing this record, or I thought I was at the end of it, but it ended up being the middle of it. And to have music to be able to focus on really helped. I would get lost in it, and so I would just do that whenever I could. I liked getting lost.
And the song is Isolation by John Lennon. Are you on your set list and the last shows? Is that how you feel during the lockdown?
Yeah, it's funny. We had just recorded a version of that song right before, maybe, you know, a few months before lockdown happened. And then everybody got behind that song, but we were just a little ahead of the curve.
You kind of predicted what was going on.
Yeah.
Last interview in 2018, you said you enjoyed to ride a bike when you were on vacation on a day off at home.
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I wasn't expecting it, but somebody who was on the tour got one of those little fold-up bikes. You know what I mean? The fold-up bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one just because it looked cool, and then it ended up being something I was kind of obsessed with.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
And you moved back to Austin again, 2019, right?
Yeah.
How has it been living in Austin again?
You know, for the first 5 months before pandemic hit, it was just beautiful. I mean, it's still pretty nice because, well, you know, in Texas, Austin's part of Texas, and in Texas, they don't like having rules, right? And so it does feel kind of normal out there, you know? And even did during the worst of the pandemic.
Where do you feel more inspired to write songs, Austin or LA?
I can do it anywhere, but I prefer being in Austin right now. Yeah, this is home.
And you are releasing a new album. It's a great album. Congrats for that.
Thank you.
How was the process of writing and recording Lucifer On The Sofa?
Well, we decided while we were on tour in 2019 that the world wasn't hearing enough great rock and roll records. We wanted to make one. And we wanted to make our record a little different from the record we had just made before, a little different from Hot Thoughts, which was a very produced record. It was a record where we were writing the songs as we were recording them. And so that gives you a certain type of song and a certain sounding record. And we wanted to make one that kind of felt more like an old school rock record where it's the sound of a band that's playing in a room. So that was cool. I mean, that's what we did. And it was a fun way to make a record, you know? It's just it's kind of cool to see what happens creatively when people get together. I like that it can get exponentially better really quickly. So I had a good time with it.
Yeah, and I think you really got the idea of the album. It's great. And I love when you say it's the sound of classic rock as written by a guy who never did Eric Clapton.
Right.
What do you mean with it?
Why do I pick on Eric Clapton?
Yeah.
Well, I just never liked him. I never liked
Really?
Yeah, it's just not for me. So I guess I was just trying to differentiate that there is classic rock that I like and there's classic rock that I don't like, you know? And I know that Eric Clapton is huge in the world of classic rock. So I guess I was just trying to differentiate that maybe it's I don't know. I just never liked his songs and never liked his voice. So, but I have a lot of friends who love Slowhand, you know, and it sounds like maybe you like him, but that's cool. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, no, I enjoy his music.
Yeah.
He's been saying things that I don't agree with him, but that's okay.
Yeah, and there's the politics, right?
Yeah. And Lucifer On The Sofa is the first Spoon album to include the new members, Geral and Ben, on the bass and guitar.
Yeah.
How was working with them in studio?
It was good. I mean, we've never had a guitar solo on a record like the one on The Hardest Cut. And we never did before because we never had Gerardo Larios in the band. He can play like that. Even if I had wanted to, that's not my style, you know, and I love that he can play that way. I'm more of a rhythm player, but he can actually play some lead.
Yeah.
And Benny is great too. He's, you know, he's got a lot of credentials. He played with Sharon Jones. He played with Charles Bradley. He played with Lee Fields. So he's really has a real soul approach to the bass. It works great for us.
Yeah, I was watching some recent performance from you guys on YouTube. You posted on your YouTube channel. It's a really rock and roll concert that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So that's great. I think that idea of the album as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Lucifer On The Sofa is the last track of the album, also the name of the album. Why did you choose this song as the name title?
Well, because every great rock record needs a great title. And I thought that was a really good one. It just kind of creeped me out, that title. And it catches your attention, I think. But yeah, what that title really means is, I mean, in the song, Lucifer on the Sofa, Lucifer is another side of me. It's the character I can become, the character I don't like to become, but I can become in times of stress. And the song is about getting past that character. But yeah, that's why we named it.
And there's also the track The Devil and Mr. Jones, and on the song Paper Tiger from the album Kill the Moonlight, you sing I Will No Longer Do the Devil's Wishes. How do you feel when you're writing about these evil things that we all have?
Well, I think it's an artist's duty to write about things that are maybe not easy to talk about, or maybe the darker side. But you know, when I grew up going to church every week, the devil was not an imaginary thing. It wasn't a concept. It was a real person. It was a real entity. And so I kind of grew up with that idea. Also grew up in a house that talked a lot about the apocalypse. And so those ideas are pretty familiar to me. And I'm not surprised they make their way into a bunch of the songs.
Yeah, I understand. I grew up on church as well.
Yeah.
And when I heard The Devil and Mr. Jones, I couldn't help it but remember the Bob Dylan song, Counting Crows, Bee Gees. Who is this Mr. Jones on the song The Devil and Mr. Jones?
He's a very bad man. And yeah, I was aware that, you know, I love songs about Mr. Jones. It's like there's such a great history of songs that are about Mr. Jones. And so the only question for me was not, should we change the name? I loved using that name, but I wanted to come up with a title that was not just Mr. Jones. That's what we called it when we were working on it. And I knew it couldn't just be that. So somebody suggested that Devil and Mr. Jones. That felt like that worked on this record.
I was going to ask if that's something character from a story or a movie on Mr. Jones in America, because there is really a lot of songs talking about Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
And the first track held, it's your version by Smog, the musician Bill Callahan. I don't know if I'm saying it right because of my accent. Sorry for that. But
that's right.
Why did you decide to record the song for this album and start with this version of Held?
Yeah. Well, that's a song that we used to play live in the 2000s. It was part of our set that, you know, it was a song that we'd play in the encore maybe, you know, and somehow we stopped playing it, you know, I don't know why. And we hadn't played it for a long time, but when we were rehearsing and kind of messing around, trying to get in the mood to do music while we were working on this record one day, we were just playing covers. And so I said, why don't we play Held? We haven't played it in forever. And it was supposed to just be for fun, you know, to get us in the mood to do other stuff. But quickly that, you know, it became this, we did some changes to our way of playing it. Like I moved over to bass guitar and suddenly the thing had teeth. It was really good. And so I said, maybe this isn't just for fun. Maybe we should record this. And so we immediately did, and it worked. And so we put it first only because it just sounds like a first song to me. It has all that studio chatter at the beginning of the track, and those incidental noises, and it just sounded to me like that's the way you should start a record, kind of set the scene a little bit and give the album somewhere to grow from.
Yeah, man. It was really great starting with the studio chatter.
Yeah. You like that?
It kind of like, oh my God, did I play it right?
Yeah.
And then the song starts. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And the hardest cut is the first song you've written for this album. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. Well, it wasn't the first song for the record, but it was the first one when Alex and I moved to Texas. So we'd done a little bit of work before then, but yeah, first song once we got to Texas, hardest cut.
What means this song for you?
Well, it's a song about an unhealthy relationship, and knowing that it was unhealthy did not help it. Did not make it any easier to end it. It was a difficult one to end. It was the hardest cut.
I don't think we're going to have time to talk about all the tracks, but I want to talk to you about the track on the radio. It's my favorite one from the album.
Oh, cool.
And do you used to listen a lot to the radio?
Yeah, I still do. I have a radio on in the house all the time. There's a room. There's a room where I just keep the radio on all the time. It makes me feel like something's happening, And it's kind of similar to what it felt like when I was a kid listening to the radio. And the song is about being a kid growing up in Temple, Texas, a small town in Texas, and being alone a lot, but having that radio and feeling like I had a connection to the outside world. And with the radio, I had evidence that the world was still existing outside beyond my house. That made me feel good.
How much does the radio influence you to be a musician?
I remember a lot about being a kid. I remember being bored a lot, and music was a thing that it was free, and I could do it without pissing off my parents. Being able to play records and being able to listen to the radio alleviated a lot of boredom, and so yeah, probably a big part of it.
And do you have a favorite track on the album?
No, I like a lot of them. I pretty much like all of them. Maybe if I had to pick one today, I'd say Feels All Right. I like that one.
Yeah. Any special reason for that?
I just like the groove of it, It's real short. It's not really the deepest song in the world, but it has a really but it just feels, I don't know. It's I don't know how to define why. It just feels good.
Was the song written during lockdown? Because you say I Feel the Night. I think you write it on lockdown.
No, that one was before, but it was right before the pandemic that one came together. Yeah.
And I don't think if that's something on my mind, but when I listen to Astral Jacket and Satellite, I think, oh, these songs have a connection with each other. Does it have, or just something on my mind?
Yeah, right. Because that's right where the record sort of takes a left turn. It's gone along and it's been pretty much a rock and roll record, and then it takes that left turn, and there's 3 songs in a row that kind of have a different vibe. Especially the last one is very different. But yeah, I hear that. They're more like each other than the other ones, and they're pretty. They're both pretty.
That's great. My last question is: you are going on tour. What do you expect from this tour in America, and what can the fans can expect? And can we expect you guys in Brazil soon?
I mean, I sure hope so. I know that they're trying. Our management is trying to set up a tour for down there, and I don't know when it'll be, but hopefully soon. I love being in Sao Paulo and Rio, and yeah, I miss that we can't get down there. But yeah, but what can they expect? I mean,
yeah.
I really feel like touring is about the same, if that's what you're asking, about the pandemic times. We did a tour in September and October here in the United States, and it was a little different because we tried to stay in a bubble, and we didn't invite any guests backstage or onto the bus, so we were kind of only hanging out by ourselves. But the most important parts of touring were the same, getting together in a room with a bunch of people and having that shared experience of loud music, that beautiful thing that can't be replaced by a live stream or anything else. That was still magnificent. I loved it.
Yeah, man, we all missed it. Perfect. Thank you so much, Britt. Appreciated the interview. Really nice talking with you again, man.
Really, guys, good to talk to you too. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. I hope you come down here.
Yeah, we will.
89, a Rádio Rock.